Okay, here we go. Holy. First off, I would just like to give you a walk around 2012 Kawasaki Concours 14, and we're going to shorten that by referring it to either the Connie or the C14, as most people typically do. So from here on out, it will be a Connie or a C14. This is based off of the Kawasaki ZX14R Ninja, which is their big dog, their 1400cc sport touring bike that really leans toward the sport side. This one gives you a little bit more of the touring, you know, kind of a sport touring bike with attitude, I guess you could say, because it still has the absurd engine from that ZX14R. It's a little detuned. I believe this one's rated at 155 horsepower, where in the ZX14R, I want to say it's 173. You guys can correct me down in the comments, but I'm pretty sure that's right. So very, very similar power numbers. Down a little bit on this. It makes absolutely no difference. It is not underpowered by any means. We'll get into that as well. This is shaft drive, a little bit more long distance friendly, a little bit more maintenance friendly. Very, very simple to change the differential oil. I've already done that. Very simple to change the engine oil. I've already done that. They do make these bikes very easy to work on, so that's nice. But ZX14R gives you a chain drive, standard chain and sprockets, like most motorcycles, but touring bikes typically try to lean toward a little bit less maintenance, so hence the shaft drive, no maintenance shaft drive or low maintenance shaft drive, whatever you want to call it. You still want to change the differential oil about every other oil change, I think, is what people are doing. But this has a few more features that make it a little more comfortable than the ZX14R, and also a little heavier than the ZX14R. It has a power adjustable windshield, it has heated grips, it has hard cases for the rear, which I do not have on right now, but they're gloss black. They're beautiful. They match the bike very well. I just kind of like the look of it, and it's a little easier to throw a leg over it. I'm not going anywhere long distance right now, so they're real easy to pop off and on. Right now they're off, but yeah, it's a gorgeous machine, I think. You know, twin radiator gills, if you will, on each side. The earlier bikes, the way I understand it, maybe 08 and 09, had a little bit of a problem keeping cool. They weren't ventilated quite as well as they should be. They fixed that. This is the newer, the second generation, if you will, of the C14, with bigger gills, a little bit more airflow in there. But so far, I've had it out on a really, really hot day, and so far I haven't had any cooling issues whatsoever. The bike, I believe, is entirely stock except for this slip-on exhaust here, and this is a Delkovich, just basically the carbon fiber looking muffler. It sounds good. I actually like it. It's still kind of quiet until you really get into it, but yeah, this is it. We'll jump on it, we'll go for a spin, and we'll talk about a few things, you know, why I chose this bike and what else I might have been looking at and what have you. Today we are actually at my old high school. That is Lafayette High School in St. Joseph, Missouri. This is the high school track. That is the football field, practice field up there. I spilled some sweat and blood on both of these fields back in the day, and class of 99, so it's been a long time ago, but it seems like it was yesterday, I promise you. But let's go ahead and hop on this thing and let's go for a ride. It's a keyless, key fob's in my pocket. I don't know how well you can hear that. It's just kind of a hum. Sound check here. Sounds good. I really like the way it sounds. Inline 4-cylinder. I believe it's 1,352 cc's, but they round it up, as pretty much all manufacturers of motorcycles do. Center stand, that's really nice. I will show you this power adjustable windshield here. Yeah, if you feel like you need a little bit more wind protection, you can just kick that thing up a little bit. I prefer to leave it down. I don't mind a little bit of wind. That's why I'm riding a motorcycle. If I didn't want any wind, I could drive a truck. All right, the heated grip control down there. Yeah, we're gonna go north on St. Joe Avenue, and we are going to take a fun little highway that goes between St. Joseph and Savannah, Missouri. DD Highway, and David. Okay, 22,000 mile bike, which really nothing for a sport touring machine, really. I see a lot of sport touring bikes with a lot of miles on them. 22,000, you know, as long as it's well cared for. I bought this from a dealership, and it seemed to be really well cared for. One of the first things that I did when I got it home is I wanted to go ahead and just change the fluids and, you know, kind of know what I'm working with. And man, I think the differential oil that I pulled out of there was actually cleaner than the differential oil I put in there. I don't know what they used, but it was like clear. And what I put in there had a little bit of a kind of a yellowish tint to it. But anyway, okay, so my time with the F800 ST just kind of ran its course. Nothing went wrong with it. It was a good bike. In some ways, there are a few things I actually like better about that bike than this, which we'll get into a little bit. I apologize, but I will be comparing the C14 to the F800. No, they're not competitors. They're completely different units. I mean, they're both sport touring machines, but they're kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum, because this is a 1400cc monster, you know, inline 4-cylinder, and that's a parallel twin 800cc. You know, this has considerably more weight, about, you know, 240 pounds more. I believe this is 690, fully dressed, wet, loaded with fuel and oil and battery and everything. So it's a heavy machine, and it actually kind of wears its weight pretty high, so be prepared for that. If you're kind of a bigger rider, a little taller, a little heavier rider, it's not going to be a big deal for you. But, you know, smaller riders, I could see, you know, somebody that's, you know, 160 pounds, you know, 5'9", something like that. I could see that being a little bit of a challenge. Just trying to get this thing, you know, balanced whenever you're going really slow and whenever you're stopped, keeping your feet down. So that's something to keep in mind. The seat height's not super low on this, so it does wear its weight pretty high. Once you're moving, you know, it is a ballerina. Once it's moving, it is very, very nimble, very easy to flick around. Yeah, no problems at all once you get moving, but it could be a challenge. It is definitely a lot more of a chore to roll it around in a garage than it was with the F800. What are you doing there, fella? Thank you. So keep that in mind. Bigger, heavier bike for sure. This is, you know, one of the bigger, more powerful sport touring bikes for this era. So 155 horsepower, and one way that you really counteract all that weight is with torque, right? Just like anything else, just like any cars, trucks, trains, motorcycles are no different, right? The best way to counterbalance weight is with torque, and the C14 has boatloads of torque. Makes 102 pound-feet of torque. You never are doing without, although it is a variable valve timing engine, so down low it seems to really wake up kind of after 5,000 RPMs. But one of the reasons why I chose this bike, I wanted a bigger sport touring bike, right? Bigger, you know, more powerful, more plush, more just bigger everything. So a few of the bikes that I looked at the BMW K1300S. Nothing real close to me, you know, that had the mileage and the price that I wanted, you know, because I had an idea for, you know, what I wanted to spend and what I was looking for mileage, and, you know, I wanted to see one that was well kept and well cared for. So that was one. I did look at a couple of Hayabusas. I'd still one of these days love to ride a Hayabusa, or maybe even own one just to see what it's like. After riding this, obviously a Hayabusa is, you know, quicker, it's more powerful, it's, you know, everything. It does everything quicker and faster than this bike does. That makes me kind of lean toward no. Maybe I don't ever want to try a Hayabusa. But, you know, one of those things is kind of an iconic bike. I'd still like to see what it's like to ride one. But the ZX14R is another that I looked at a couple of those. Learned about the cooling issues on those, on the earlier models, so that kind of pushed me toward the later models, and then that kind of pushed me toward the Connie. And I thought, well, here's a, you know, basically a ZX14R that's a little more comfortable, a little more upright, a little more geared toward touring, and it's cheaper. It has more stuff, more comfort, and it's cheaper. The drawback, well, it's not as fast. It's not absurdly fast, but I mean, I think it is, but it's not on the same level as the ZX14R. ZX14R puts you in the 9s in the quarter mile. Yeah, I don't need that. I just don't need that. So this is plenty powerful, more power than I will ever need. I actually, if there were a, you know, maybe a FJR 1300, you know, I definitely would have looked at one of those too. So, you know, the Honda VFR 1200, you know, some of those bigger sport touring bikes, bigger four-cylinder sport touring bikes, the VFR obviously being the unique layout of a V4 instead of the inline 4 like the rest of them. Excuse me, but, you know, I was open, you know, I was open to, you know, different options, but I just wanted something that checked all the boxes. And looking at the Connie, it checked all the boxes. It, you know, I really like the way it looks. It has a good reputation for reliability. It's a Kawasaki. I mean, I don't worry about Kawasaki's. I don't worry about most Japanese bikes. They're typically over-engineered, very, very well built, very reliable. So a couple of things. One, it is a big, heavy bike, but as I said, while it's moving, it carries that weight well while it's moving. And I do think I've got a front tire out of balance or something. The handlebars have just a little bit of a shake when you let go of them there. But it is a big, heavy bike. You really notice that at low speeds, or when you're maneuvering it around your garage, it carries its weight pretty high. So that's something to consider. You know, like I said, once you're moving, I mean, it's very. I figured a bike weighing almost 700 pounds, it'd be kind of like wrestling a bear, trying to get it to change directions. But it's not as quick and nimble as the F800 by any means, but it is pretty nimble, you know, for a bike of this weight. And you know, considering how high it carries its weight, I feel like I'm sitting up really high on this bike. So I mean, I ride a Bonneville too, and it's just night and day. Obviously sitting down real low on that Bonneville, considerably lower. So I don't like the mirrors. The mirrors, I don't know if you can see what I can see. I know the camera's in a little bit different spot. Every time I look at the mirrors, I see the end of the bars and the end of the levers, right smack dab in the middle of the mirror. So that's probably just a combination of weight, or excuse me, combination of my height and, you know, where I'm sitting and where my head looks down at those. But I find myself constantly like leaning out. If I'm going to use each mirror, I kind of lean out just so I can get a better view of the mirror itself. So ergos are really good. I think the ergos are better than the F800 ST. I feel like I'm sitting I feel like I'm sitting up higher, but I feel like the bars are a lot higher too. The bars were quite a bit lower, pitched me forward, and I kind of had to lean forward on the faux tank on that F800. Where this one, I not at all. I'm really up. There's a little bit of weight on my crotch, but not a ton. It's pretty comfortable to sit on, really. I can imagine doing this for several hours without a break, and I don't think it'd be a problem at all, with the exception of no cruise control. Which leads me to my biggest complaint about a sport touring bike that has a power adjustable windshield, variable heated grips, but no cruise control. It has an electronic locking glove box, but no cruise control. So I will probably be investing in some sort of a throttle lock, either like an Atlas or something. You know, that way I can get going on the highway and kind of rest my hands, take my hands off the bars, and, you know, kind of rest them on the tank and keep that weight off of my right hand, because it constantly holding onto that throttle does eventually get tiring, and my hand starts to fall asleep. And folks, we're in Savannah, Missouri. This is downtown Savannah, Missouri. This is known as the Square downtown. There's a courthouse. Braking. This has a linked braking system, which, if you're watching this video, I'm sure you know what linked braking systems are. It's foreign to me, so I don't like it, but that's probably just because I'm not used to it. I feel like my rear brake should just be hitting the rear brake only, and when I push down on the rear brake and it pitches me forward, you know, with a bunch of braking force coming from the front, it's a little alarming. But it's just something I got to get used to. I don't know. Jury's still out on that one, guys. I don't know. I don't like it right now, but probably just because I'm not used to it. Other than that, the brakes are good, like really good. Extremely strong, good bite. Okay, so another thing that I was really impressed with on the F800 ST was the fuel economy. I never got worse than 50 miles per gallon, no matter how I rode. I was always between 50 and 53 miles per gallon, no matter how I rode. So, naturally, this being a bigger bike, a heavier bike, with a lot more power, with double the cylinders, with approaching double the displacement, and moving around an extra 240-ish pounds, the fuel economy, right now I'm averaging 38.3, which is borderline awful. It's not great. So that's another thing to keep in mind, and it's something I was prepared for. I knew it wasn't going to be. I'm not buying these things for, you know, to commute to work to save money on gas, but it is nice to be able to, you know, ride around at 52 miles per gallon, you know, just sipping fuel. But this one drinks a little bit more, that's for sure. So keep that in mind as well. However, 5.8 gallon tank, I believe it is, means that you still have really, really good range. So I'm actually down 1 bar on the fuel gauge, and I'm right at 200 miles to empty. So I won't push that. I won't see how accurate that is, risk running out, but it's they're usually fairly accurate. Very smooth, very, very smooth. Just a very, very faint vibration from the mill, which, you know, for an engine this size, is remarkably smooth. The F800 ST was more vibey than this. Being a parallel twin, though, it's a little harder to balance than an inline 4-cylinder. It does have traction control and a little bit of a wheelie nanny. I haven't actually played with the settings on it. Not sure that I will. I don't want to do anything that would require a wheelie nanny. So just put it that way. I'm not too concerned with it, but K-Track, I believe it's called, the Kawasaki traction control system, and you know, it's basically pulls back some throttle whenever it senses the rear wheel moving faster than the front wheel. So ABS, which works well. Traction control, I have no idea how well it works because I haven't tested it, and I don't intend to do so. Yeah, and then the wheelie nanny, which is part of that. And again, I have no intentions of testing that out. I'm going to trust that it works, and we'll just go with that. My wheelie days are behind me. One thing about a bigger bike is that it really feels planted going around corners. Golly, it just, you pick a line and it just stays there. There's just nothing moves you off the line with this thing. Very, very confident cornering machine, you know, with all this weight. So overall thoughts on it. It costs more than the F800 ST, but it's much, much more powerful, much quicker, much more planted around corners, even though the BMW cornered beautifully. This just feels so much more planted. It just stays on a line so well. This sounds better in my opinion. This has more fuel capacity, though it uses more of it when you're moving. So that might end up being a wash. You know, looks are subjective. I think they're both very good looking units. But I think overall, if you're looking for a sport touring machine and you want a little bit of that attitude, you want that edge and that power, I don't know what you can get in this price range. Just look around, you find these for, I paid $5,000 for this, and you know, here we're in 2024. It's a 2012 model, 22,000 miles, seemingly very well cared for. Everything works on it. I don't know that you can do a lot better for the money. Again, there are a couple of bikes that I was looking at. I don't know that anything was really competitive with this for the money, but maybe the FJR1300. You guys will chime in down below in the comments and let me know. I've never ridden an FJR. I've never ridden a VFR 1200. You know, those are a couple of bikes that I certainly considered, and had they been, you know, within a couple of hours from me, and you know, in the same price range with the same condition and mileage, certainly I would have been all over it. But you know, it's a $1,500 more than what I sold the BMW for. The BMW was a 2007, so this is 5 years newer. Mileage is similar, but 5 years newer, and it has obviously a lot more features, a lot bigger engine, a lot more powerful and all that. And I thought the BMW F800 was a terrific buy, but I'm not sure if it was a better buy than this. So, you know, you be the judge. And yeah, hit me up down in the comments. Let me know what you think about, you know, some of those other sport touring machines, or even some of the sport touring bikes that are, you know, the touring part is in air quotes. It's a sport touring, you know, such as the Hayabusa or the ZX14R, you know, bikes like that that really lean toward the sport side. I think for something that I purchased this for a little bit more distance, I think I would be happier with this than with one of those, certainly. More than anything, those are kind of bucket list machines, right? Like, I wanted to see what it was like to ride one of those. And, you know, I may never know. I don't know, but...
So folks, that's all I have for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you found it a little bit informative. I love the bike. It's a load of fun. It's insanely quick. It's so much fun to ride. But it's also comfortable. It's not, you know, it's not all speed. It's not all power. It's also a pleasure to ride. It's also very comfortable, very confident cornering machine, very good brakes. Yeah, very, very few complaints from me on this. I don't like that it doesn't have cruise control. That's really about all I can come up with. Kawasaki, I don't know what you're doing, but it seems like you might just be trying to murder people. I don't know, because this is insanely powerful. You have to be very, very careful. You have to use a lot of self-control. I can only imagine what the ZX14R would be like. You know, just absolutely absurd. So, folks, that's all I have. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, have a great day.